Okay, so in our previous class, we set up GitHub accounts. We went to github.com and we used our Glimbrick email address in order to create an account. So go ahead and get logged in. It'll take you to a page that looks something like this. So you'll see github.com/whatever your username is. And we set up a repository. Now we can access the repository that we already set up by clicking on our icon and going to your repositories, and you will see them listed here. Now, another thing that we did is went to codepen.com, codepen.io, and we logged in with our GitHub account. And CodePen is a sandbox environment that we can use in order to write code and see it immediately show up in our browser. So if we go to your work, you should see all of the pens that you have created. So if I go to August 20th, that's what we were working on last time, you'll see that I've got my HTML right here and it renders on the side right here. Today we're not using CSS, we're not using JavaScript. If we were, that's where you would write it right here and it would have its impact over here. So this is all well and good if you want to sort of test something on the fly, but this isn't going to be professional. This isn't going to be something that you give to a client, for example, or use for a personal project. You can also see in the change view area right here, by default, it's going to be up here. I prefer to go with this side-by-side display. The next thing that we did is we used an application called Github Desktop. And Github Desktop is something that you'll log into if you haven't yet. You can go to Github Desktop, Preferences, and you can see whether or not you are logged in. You can sign out if it's the wrong application. Click Sign if you need to sign in. And one thing that we did last class, which we're going to undo, is go to Integrations, and we're going to change our external editor from Sublime Text to Visual Studio Code. We're going to hit Save. What you should see are your repositories that you have on your computer right in here, and you can open them in Visual Studio Code. Now, Visual Studio Code is going to open up right here. It's a slightly different text editor that we'll examine that's similar to Sublime Text, but has some added features that we prefer. And you can see the code that you have written is right here. Eventually, what you should do is write all of the code that you have written in your CodePen and put that into Visual Studio Code like so, and then save it. In GitHub Desktop, you'll see that all changes that you have made locally will be highlighted right in here. And what we can do is we can commit those changes, or we can basically officially save that as a version of our software. We can always sort of unwind that if we've made a mistake, but once we're done, we're going to push to origin. What that does is that takes our code and it puts it into our repository. And so you'll see right here, August 20th repository has my index file with those updated changes. We also went to settings, and if by default you see a little lock icon right up here, we're going to go down to the bottom where it says danger zone. We're going to change the visibility, and we're going to set it to public instead of private, which it is by default. Once it's private, once it's no longer private, we can go to pages, and then we can set our source to main branch, which will give us a link right here, which if I click right here, will open up as a web page. If for some reason it gives you a 404 error, add index.html at the end right here. So that's basically the folder and then the file that's in the folder. And you should get it to show like we see right here. We're going to examine this in further detail and do some additional steps, but this is a review of our last class.